Welcome to the best thing you watched this week. It's spooky month. It's spooky month. Yay, October. Here we go. If you've been following us for a while, then you'll know or probably have heard that we're gearing up for something special this month. This is our first week where we're going to be talking about our personal favorite 5 top horrors. Well, the ones that we go back to, we watch. They personally something that we like to watch and reoccur watching. Stick it on whenever you're like, yeah, I'm in the mood for horror. This is one I'm going to stick on. It's not necessarily the best horrors of all time, just our personal choices. Once again, we got Chris with Movies and Munchies, myself, Ruben from the Ruby Tuesday. We do this weekly podcast and video thing, the best thing we watched. This week, however, the best thing we watched is going to be in the podcast segment because we're going to do our top 5 horror films first. I'm excited because I'm wondering how different our choices are going to be, Chris.
Absolutely. Well, and you have told us before that you are not necessarily the largest horror fan. And so I'm very curious at where your list lands and what bubbles to the top as your favorites.
I think you're going to be surprised. I can tell you, I find it difficult to watch this supernatural stuff, although I do have some supernatural ones that are my favorite. Whether they make it into the top 5, I don't know. Would you like to kick us off with your... Did you rank them, or were they just in there?
You know what? I did... The top 2 are definitely ranked. Okay. The bottom 3 could move around, but I'll keep them in the order that I have them. So I'll go towards my best. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I'll go towards my. I start out with just an honorable mention. Now I have a giant horror list, and it was really tough to narrow this down. I mean, it really was. Yeah. So my honorable mention, I'm going to go with 7. David Fincher's just. Nice. I mean that. I remember seeing it in the theater with my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife, and her being. I was shocked, and her being just visibly upset for quite a while. It was just that kind of impactful movie. So it was, that was tough. But it's still one that I go back and revisit from time to time. I mean, it's just so well crafted. If you haven't seen it, 7. If you have seen it, 7. All right. The first one on my list is this is the scariest movie I've ever seen, and it's not a horror movie, but I'm ranking it in the horror movie genre.
You were talking about this last week. I wondered where. Okay, I'm excited.
Yes. Okay. So it is called Sanctum. Now it's
Is this a diving film?
Yes, it is. Okay. With caves and
I've seen it.
There are no monsters.
Yeah.
There are no things that go bump in the night. There's no slasher after you. There's none of this. It's not supernatural. It is pure and just unadulterated horror and terror for the runtime. You have this group of people who are down exploring a cave, and then some giant storm happens, and they get kind of, just happenstance, domino effect. They cannot get out of the cave. They have all their diving equipment down there and stuff, so they are trapped down there. And it's kind of a familial relationship too. There's, I think, a dad and his son, and then some other, just coworkers and stuff. And what they have to do is they have to figure out a way to navigate out of this cave. And so they go through these different cave systems. And what it does is the farther they go, the more underwater they get. They find some places where they're not underwater, but there's parts where they have to take off their tanks because the crevices that they have to get through, they can barely fit themselves. And so, sometimes they will drag a tank with them. Sometimes they have to just leave it behind. And as the movie goes along, we lose people because of just disaster that happens. And I mean, it is nail biting. It is claustrophobic. It is truly suffocating. And when we get to the very end, there is a point where I was breathing along with the character. Right. I mean, I found myself, the situation that they're in is so dire, is so just compressed with anxiety, and that there's an urgency. I mean, you see them working with their breath and how long they have to hold their breath and where we think they have to go. And it's kind of an unknown situation. And so I was really like, and if they would find a spot to be able to take a breath, I would be, So I saw it once with my wife when it came out. Then several years later, I had been talking about it, and my boys were like, "Ooh, we want to watch this." And I'm like, I don't know if not so much that. Well, I want to show it to them. It's just I don't know if I can take it. I watched it with them. For some reason, a few years after that, I watched it again for myself. I don't know. There's something sadistic about it, and it was just as horrifying the entire way through. So did you end up seeing it?
I have seen it.
Okay.
Yeah, I do remember finding it. I think it was on Netflix in the UK, and just go, oh, that looks interesting, sticking it on, and then like 2 hours later, like it's like, okay, I came and went. But I think I remember just leaning like this on my seat the whole time, watching, probably holding my breath. But I'm curious to know why it affects you so much, where it holds the ranking of scariest film I've ever seen. Are you a diver?
I am not. Now, I am a swimmer, or I used to be a swimmer. I'm chubby now. I should be swimming. But I swam competitively in school.
Okay.
And so the swimming, that part of it doesn't bother me. I am very intrigued by caves. Drowning, suffocating, and being lit on fire are and falling. Those things, those are not ways that I want to die. And the suffocating part or the drowning part seems just very terrible.
Right.
I remember the scene from, what was it, The Abyss, where they push the liquid oxygen back into, I think it's
stuff
Mary
that
Steenburgen.
they can breathe, but you have to basically drown yourself first.
Exactly. And that knowingly, doing that, just willingly do that's horrifying. But watching this, I mean, they are in a very tight spot where really there is, it's kind of, once you make a decision and then you make another decision, it's really the only thing you can do is move forward. You can no longer go back and say like, well, this didn't work, I need to go here. And so it was terrifying to me. It just, I don't want to be in a position like that, and then you have the dad part of it too, of just the family you've brought your children along or place them in danger too.
Yeah. I remember thinking this is really clever because it compounds the fear, because you go from, oh, they're trapped, and then you go from them, they need air, then they're sharing tanks, then they're letting go, then the space encloses, then they're in darkness, deep underwater, lost with no air, breathing their last bit, and you're like, oh my gosh, it just gets worse. And so, yeah. It's a very clever mechanic. I do love those type of films. I love the tenseness where it's a ride and you're hoping against hope that they're going to survive, and then as people start like, I'm not going to say who, but like, as people aren't there anymore, you're like, is this one of those films that are they all going to die? Yeah. I can see why you have that in your. And not necessarily horror, just a thing that could happen. That's possibly why it might be, because it's more real. Like, it actually could happen. This could be it's not a slasher or a supernatural monster.
Yeah, it's not it's out of the realm of possibility for me, because I don't intend to go down to very
you're not going
deep.
to go diving.
Yeah, doing that. But yeah, this is. I mean, it does have that realism to it, and that's why. I mean. It is one of the scariest movies that I've ever seen. And, for, like you said, it's well crafted and it's well conceived to be able to think, how do we make this, and how do we increase anxiety and that discomfort to a almost excruciating level, and yet not lose our audience. Because if you get too far, if it gets either too ridiculous or if it ever breaks into that unbelievable state, it breaks you out of that tension. And all of the while, I felt just for my characters. And, not everybody has a happy ending in this one, unfortunately. Ooh.
No, I mean, most horrors don't, do they?
Yeah, no, they don't. No. So, okay, what's... Please start us off on your list.
Yeah, okay, so I've got some honorable mentions. So I'm just going to mention quickly Eden Lake for very much the same reason of it being really real. So it's a group of young hooligans that are taken to an extreme level. A couple find themselves in the woods and they have to deal with these guys. It's very like torture, captivity, them trying to escape. But it was so real, so well done that I said to myself, I'm never watching this film again. That's the scariest film I think I've seen. For spiritual reasons, The Entity. Have you ever heard of The Entity?
I think I've heard of it. I don't think I've seen it though.
Yeah, so it's one that it messed me up when I saw it. And I was like, yeah, I don't even know why I'm watching. So I think I was watching with friends. It's based on one of those supernatural stories that are based on truth, but it's about an entity or a demon spirit that you can't see that basically assaults a woman sexually, and you see it and like it, you don't see it, but you see like the sheets and the duvet being pulled and her legs and you're like, oh, and it's really horrific, and no matter what she does, it seems she can't get away from it. And that's why I was like, that's probably up there with the scariest film I've ever seen. But really good ones that's not in my list: Midsummer, Get Out, Us, The Descent, The Thing. Those are all horrors I highly recommend. If you haven't seen them, they should be on there.
Which The Thing?
The original.
Or the okay.
Original. I didn't mind the remake, but yeah. Original all the way. John Carpenter's original. Kurt Russell, just genius. Practical monster magic all the way.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Brilliant. So much fun. The Descent, very claustrophobic film, very gory, incredible. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so number 5, you probably wouldn't have guessed this one for me. It's a slasher film. It's one of the teen slasher films, and it's called Scream, which I'm sure you've seen. But when these films became really popular, this was the one that kind of started it all off again. And it had the Wes Craven name attached to it, obviously, because he directed it. And we know him from Nightmare on Elm Street and a couple of others. But it was the things that they started doing that broke the rules of horror, which is what I really appreciated. So we had all the Halloween films. There are certain girls that in these films, if you're basically the rules of films, that if you are a certain type of person, you will get knocked off very quickly. And if you're the good person, you stay at home and you obey the rules and you're quite smart, then you survive, right? You're not promiscuous, you obey your parents. And starts with the Drew Barrymore scene that became just incredible. And from that moment on, that moment that she, in the most horrific way that they didn't shy away from showing, was like, damn, she was smart, she's intelligent, she's the girl that you probably don't think that it's Drew, for one, pretty much high Hollywood A-lister that normally they were stayed around for the film. And it's from that moment on, I was like, damn, this is different. And then it starts playing with the whole premise is playing with the rules of what horror is. And then you're outwitting it. And so for me, that always stands in one of the films I love to go back and watch. Number 2, 3, 4 are fine. And they're not nearly as good as the original, but they're more comedy. I find that comedy horror. But the first one has a special place in my heart because Neve Campbell I thought was fantastic. There's some characters, I know she plays with her husband there. There's like romance that starts, David Arquette, who is the cop in that, and he has this interesting character development throughout the films, but they're really established there, and you literally keep yourself, if the first time you watch that, I don't care what anybody says, you try and guess who the person is. By the time you get to them, it's like, wow, why didn't I see that come? That was in my face the whole time, but still, lot of fun. One of my most enjoy the films, like, Halloween, I'm going to stick that on.
I agree. This was it was a breath of fresh air when it came out. I mean, they went back to killing like an A-lister like Hitchcock did in Psycho, and I don't know if we had really seen any of that, because if you got somebody who was prominent in Hollywood, a bigger star, they needed the selling or the staying power, you know what I mean, for either their contracts or whatever. And so to do that, I loved it. And I agree with you. The breaking of the rules, And what I really liked is they tell us about it first. Like
Yeah.
they set up all of this, and you have Jamie Kennedy, who is the horror movie buff. He's also kind of the fool for the plot, but he every single step of the way he's telling what us as the audience, of years of watching horrors are also thinking, like, you don't do that. Don't say I'll be right back. You don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
and then one of the guys goes, "I'll be right back," and everybody goes, "Oh, so much fun!" Yeah.
It is. What a great, that one. I agree. That is one that you can revisit often, yearly, and just get more enjoyment each time out of it. The performances are wonderful. The comedy, really works within there and doesn't make it silly. That's the thing, that it enhances, I think, some of the terror that you feel, and just that, that suspense. And I really enjoyed, I played along just like you did the whole time, like, oh, it's them. And sometimes, well, that person got killed off. Well, okay, it's not them. Let's see, who else could it be?
Yeah. So much fun.
Yeah, what a blast.
So what's second on your list?
Okay, this one is...
Or number 4, yeah.
Yeah, this is like one of my son's most favorite movies, and he was so excited for me to see it. And so I finally sat down, and this is one of those that bothered my soul. And it's the Babadook.
I haven't seen it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it's just really quick. I mean, like, really, the synopsis from IMDb is, a single mother and her child fall into a deep well of paranoia when an eerie children's book titled Mr. Babadook manifests in their home. Now, you have some very creepy imagery that just will show up. You have this this book that seemingly, well, it's horrifying in what it shows within it, but you can't really get rid of it. And so there's a very deep working with this. I mean, there is a lot of emotion and a lot of emotional baggage that comes through this, and it also can be seen as even a like people working through grief or working through fear. And so Babadook, Mr. Babadook, doesn't necessarily have to be an evil entity, even though it is it is terrifying. And this one, there's not many movies that really go, oh, that unsettles me, and I'm not exactly sure why. I've only seen this twice, so because it was, it's one of those that, like, I don't gravitate towards at all. It legitimately freaks me out because of just the way that some of the shadow that works, but I think more so it's because you have this mom and this child, and their relationship, we watch it deteriorating, but not because there's misunderstanding. The child is seeing things and behaving away, and the mom doesn't know how to deal with it, and is frustrated, and is then becoming more scared, and she's seeing things then that are not right. And so it there's things that also go on, with the child that become horrifying, and things that happen to other people around, and just, it's very well crafted. It's I want to say that it was yes, okay, so it's directed by Jennifer Kent, who also did a movie just within the last year or two, maybe a couple of years, called The Nightingale, which was another just horrifying movie for a whole different reason. But she crafts this. I believe it's an Australian film. The Babadook is, and it is. It's quiet. It's. I would almost classify it like as an indie that became a cult classic.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about it now. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I think one of the things is there are certain things that are meant to be protected, and so when you start messing with that, like children in horror, you just think, well, nothing's really going to get them or hurt them because it's children, right? Like animals, children, there's certain rules, much like the screen breaking it, which I've heard people saying, and you're always scared for the child, and you're scared for yourself watching, and then you're scared for the mother. Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't quite worked up the courage to watch it yet.
Yeah, there are some scenes, and they emotionally wreck you too. I think that's also there. There's some scenes where you see one. If I'm remembering correctly, the mom and the son are in a car, and there's just this breaking point, and it's emotionally raw. And I think that's why it can resonate really well, because especially if you've ever been a parent, or if you are a parent, there are times where your children are little, where you're just like, there could be the incessant, asking of something, or maybe they're just colicky as a baby, and you have to set them down and you have to walk away for a moment. I mean, and so that very realness of the overwhelming of senses, and heightened just anxiety, and knowing how you should or should not respond to your child, but sometimes that the agitation breaks through or whatever, and so you get to see some of these, and it's just the realness of it, but also there is a high level of spookiness that comes in, and you sometimes see the shadow just grow as he. Oh, no.
Well, I think I'm going to put that on my list for this Halloween.
Yeah, you got to watch it. It's really done well.
When I can't sleep, I'll be messaging you. Say, thanks for this. Now, you can stay awake all night.
Absolutely, yes. Dang it, Chris, you suck.
What did you do, Chris? No.
All right.
Okay, so Babadook was your fourth.
Number 4, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Number 2. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with this one, but for me, there's a trilogy of films that have cult status. And number 1, I can understand, was the proper horror. Number 2 of it was like a remake of it. Number 3 is like a comedy version of it, and that is my favorite part of it. The Evil Dead, Army of Darkness, is one of my favorite horrors of all time, and mostly because I can handle the deadites that are in it. It's not nearly as intense as the first one. The second one is fun, but also has weird rapey tree scene, and the third one is him in the past fighting weird mini hymns from a broken mirror, messing with things that he shouldn't say in a grave. Glatu verata. And it reminds me of those old 80s films like Willow, all of those kind of supernatural practical effects. And just if you watch any of the background documentary parts that you get on the old DVDs, you see Sam Raimi just having so much fun with his friend, loving the fact that he can beat his friends up, because they didn't have money even then, because they had a little bit more money, but not much for the third one. And it's almost like one contained story that is like broken up into parts, so you could watch it. I know some fans have done 1, 2, and 3 and taken out the little bits to make it one film. Apparently they've done that, which is a really interesting concept. But yeah, so Sam Raimi basically knew that he could put his friend through everything, like the broken glass, obviously sugar glass, but still made him do all the stunt work, everything in the swamp water. He just, when you see him getting hurt, that is our favorite character, Ash and his boomstick. The comedy to horror, I love it. It's my jam.
Awesome. Now, I have not seen Army of Darkness, so this is what I'm going to have to put on. I know.
Put it on your list.
Is this the one where his arm gets the chainsaw attached to it? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You have to watch it. It got into my arm and it went bad, and it has all the cheesiest lines. You probably couldn't make this movie today because there's things like "Give me some sugar, baby," but it's that sort of tongue-in-cheek script that I just like. I wish we could make films like that without people getting upset, because we've lost some of that weird, quirky horror, and the practical nature of it as well is just so much fun. From like demon zombie people to skeleton armies, back to Clash of the Titans. It's brilliant, so much fun.
Right on. Well, I don't know if you've seen it or not. I haven't watched, but I think it's called Ash versus the Evil Dead. Is that it? Was
yes,
became a
the
series.
series is great. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
It's very good. Yeah,
And
the fans were very upset that it got cancelled.
Oh well, sure. I mean, if you know cult status, you know, and you create a show like that from a cult series of films, so that of course you're going to take people off. Does it? But it continues on from
it does.
Army of Darkness, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, so it's like years later, he's in his camper van, and one drunken night. If you watch the trailer, so I'm not doing this, but one drunken night, he has the Book of the Dead, and he's trying to show off to this girl, and he happens to because that's his character, and he happens to read from the Book of the Dead, and starts another apocalypse, and these deadites are like, we know where he is, we're gonna go get him for what he's done to us, and thus starts the nonsense all over again. Lucy Lawless is also in the series, and she's excellent. Yeah.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so Army of Darkness, Evil Dead 3, Army of Darkness. I am adding that to my list. I will check it out because
do it. I can't wait to chat to you about it once you've seen it, because you're like, what is this?
Well, the campiness, the off the wall, it works. And that's the thing. And when you're able to combine the practical effects, I think that's what really helps to sell it too. That it just, especially when a movie knows what it is.
Yeah, I mean, through and through, it absolutely knows what it is. Yeah, it doesn't shy away from that.
Oh, that's great. That's a lot of fun. That's okay. What a good one.
It's one of those horrors. Do you remember the technique that everybody started copying afterwards, where you get the whore sound, and then the camera is really low to the ground, and it's like something following you. Oh, it's that. It's so cheesy. It's great.
It's wonderful. Right on. All right. Well, my number 3, which is funny because I thought you were going one way and you went another with Evil Dead. Totally good. Mine is it is a sequel to an original that is held up. It's one of the best classic
Aliens.
maybe horrors. No, still wonderful. Return of the Living Dead.
Oh, okay, you're going old school. Nice.
Yes. This one, okay, I remember, what year did this come out? Let's see here. Was that 1985? Okay, 85. Now this is campy also.
Is this still George R. Romero?
No, it's it's unknown guy, Dan O'Bannon. I think he did maybe one or two other things. But so you take Night of the Living Dead. We've had zombies now.
Yeah.
It's still building off of Romero's premise, of just the undead coming to life. This one, though, I remember seeing it, and I probably watched it it was in the late 80s. I didn't see it right when it came out, but I remember seeing it on VHS, at a friend's house.
What's a VHS?
I was not allowed to watch this at my house. My parents probably didn't even know that I had seen this, because it was going over to a friend's house who had HBO also, and it's like, ooh, what can we see? And this one freaked me out at the end. Now I have rewatched it since, and there is a high level of cheese to this, where it is overacted to the nth degree. It is just everybody plays their character just, so much more. Like the director said, I need you at 11. How about 15? Go for it. And so just, but what happens is you have, the premise within this is there is nuclear waste, some kind of governmental waste that spills. It gets on, or some bodies. Is it the bodies that have? It spills. Causes some cadavers to come back to life. And then these people working in like the cadaver shop or whatever, I don't even know, cadaver shop. What is it? What is a cadaver shop? They
where you buy cadavers?
Yes, exactly. Well, they end up cremating them. And what that does is that smoke and ash rises up into the atmosphere,
of course,
and causes acid rain. And then the acid rain comes down and it hits the cemeteries and everything, and it causes all of the undead to come back to life. And these things can't be killed. I think this is the first time, and I could be wrong, but I think this is the first time where we hear like actual zombies going brains. I want
really?
brains. Yeah, that
okay.
This is what they're after. And so you have the effects are done really well. Some of them are very, very, very obvious, very cheesy. That they're using a mannequin at some point, to drive a pickaxe through a head or something like that. But the thing that makes me that puts this on my list is because you have this group of people, and you have a couple of different groups of people that find themselves trapped at the mortuary. And it's just, these are the ragtag group of misfits. None of them really should be together, and they're trying to survive. And you just have more and more coming. More and more of these
color,
zombies.
Right?
It is color. It's there's one part where, and the zombies are not, they're not mindless. Before
right.
We've seen zombies that just going, these ones, like there's one where, yeah, exactly. There's one where like an ambulance comes at some point because 911 was called or whatever, and then the paramedics are attacked. Well, then once they turn, you have another paramedic or some zombie getting on the radio saying, "Send more help."
Okay.
So it's inviting more and more people. And so what happens, it becomes a comedy of errors. I mean, you have just all of these more and more people coming, the cops show up and everything. But how it ends is only a couple of people who have survived just this massive chaos. They've, the zombies have broken in there. You move from secure spot and then they break in. And so you're now into a smaller secure spot and then to another one. And your locations get more and more dire, tighter, smaller, but then you get to a place where there is no escape. And what happens is you have these people up in this attic, and it's just pounding, that the zombies are there, and they're trying to get in, and all chaos has broken loose. I think even at one point the military is like threatening nuclear strike or something to destroy this. And it just, as a kid watching this, it was like, utter nail biting. And then when I go back as an adult to watch it, I'm like, well, this is not nearly as scary, but it's still very campy, and it's done. It's like, wow, okay, this is why I can see in moments why this came cult status, because it embraces its cheese, and it goes just all the way for it. I mean, kind of like the Evil Deads, where they're like, hey, we know what we are. We're going to have fun with this, and then go after it. And so it's definitely one to check out. It's not, now it's not a scary movie for me. I mean, it's still kind of unsettling in different ways, but it's
one
an
you
experience.
enjoy.
It is one that I enjoy. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't recommend this to just anybody and everybody, which is funny because it's on our list that we're talking to anybody and everybody about. But but no, it is fun. It's really, I mean, if you like zombies, if you like camp, if you like, just, cheese and overacting, but with a story that makes sense, I mean, it had a good progression. And it's not one of those like so bad it's good. I mean, it's a decent-ish film. It's just, it has all of those other trappings within it.
Yeah, I did not see you going there. Night of the Living Dead 2. Wow. That is really a callback to some of the original best, where all other zombie films really stemmed from, the original Romero, and then from there on. Mm-hmm. Okay. Where are we at? Is this my third?
This would be your number 3, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, this is the scariest PG film, horror film, that you'll ever see.
Okay.
For me, at least. Arachnophobia. Oh my gosh! No matter how many times I see this film, no matter how many times I keep telling myself this is a PG. Essentially, it's a kids' film. Yeah, the way it's shot, the way it's filmed, the continuously just the more and more spiders in weird ways. John Goodman. who was brilliant as the exterminator, the use of real spiders, which they were. Anytime you see a spider that is squished, basically they would take a hollowed out shoe, find the carcass of a dead spider, and then the Foley guys would crunch 2 crisps together and crush them, and that's where they get that sound. So no spiders were harmed in the making of this film. I don't care. I'm sorry, spider lovers, but seriously.
No, gotta go.
But they set up the premise so well. So there's like, in the Amazon jungle, the top of the food chain is the spider, and the spider comes along in a fruit basket and ends up in a place in suburban America. And so then it mates and it builds this elaborate web in that loft. And then you're basically scared from then on. Anything that moves or crawls, when you start seeing people getting like dead from the simple bite, and then it's like crawling out of the nose of, and at the end you get like the big tarantula, which is a real tarantula, the one that kills birds. They had and they had a professional spider wrangler, whatever that job is. I don't want it.
No.
Who wants that job?
Oh.
No thanks.
Nope.
I mean, I know spiders get a bad rap because they have, too many eyes and too many legs and they're hairy. And your mind is just thinking, can you imagine them the size of us? We would not be on the top of the food chain, that's for sure.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, so it's a PG, and I love watching it because it scares the crap out of me. I have a thing about spiders. You ask my wife, spiders don't like me. Like, literally, it can be the friendliest spider. I can walk up to it and it goes...
Gotta go.
You know how their legs raise because that's their attack position? Mm-hmm. It can be a daddy long legs or a crane fly that looks like a spider, and they're like... you can use that as a thumbnail.
Love it. Using it.
I should have said anything.
No.
Yeah, so love the film. Great cast, but yeah, it's a PG and it should be an 18 in my mind.
Oh, absolutely. I remember I saw it. I've seen it multiple times, and I jump every single time. I know, the camera zooms in. I mean, it's so obvious at what's going to happen, and I jump. I remember seeing it in the theater. And just like so uncomfortable, and oh my goodness, and was it the way that the camera will zoom in like on a lamp, and somebody's gonna pull the chain to turn on or off the lamp, and you're like, no.
Just the shadow, absolutely,
and sometimes nothing happens, and that
that's often even scarier because you want to know where it is.
Exactly. Oh yeah, no. That movie. This should be on my list too because it is. I have a thing for spiders. I actually broke my foot because of a spider.
Really?
Yeah, it's a whole different story.
There's a whole nother story there.
Yes, but no, they. Oh my goodness, yeah. Truly, this is one that so well crafted. And you're right. For a PG movie, they infuse so much terror and suspense within that I think it's a way that they understand that slow push in, and using some of the music swells, and there are some jump scares. I mean, that's what got me, multiple times. But I think in this one, those are legitimate. You know what I mean? Because of the mechanism of the spider that they used to. Oh.
Man alive, there's just moments in that film. Like you said, it's coming. You still get scared when you see it. It's just, don't do that. Don't touch that. But why wouldn't you? It's your house. Touch the lamp. Touch the doorknob. But you can see it's a tiny thing that can cause so much fear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. I mean, we're so much bigger. That's. When I always think back to Harry Potter. Which one was it? Where Aragog dies, and Harry's out there after he had drank the luck potion, and he's like Hagrid's weeping obviously because it's his friend and his pet, and he's like, I don't know why they're so they're so mistrusted and so so feared. It's like, well, it could be the giant fangs. Well, I guess it could be that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that bit in Lord of the Rings as well still gets me with Shelob. Yeah,
just not right. No, they're Well, that's why, I mean, I really want to visit Australia, but also
not.
but not. Yeah. No, there's places that they have. If a spider eats a bird, if that's its meal source, you know what I mean? That is wrong. That is
wrong.
Not okay.
That's not right, man.
No. Oh, goodness. Ugh.
Are you one of those people that if you're like in bed at night and you see a spider, you have to get rid of it? Or like if you see a spider and it moves and you can't see it anymore, what do you do?
Well, funny enough, when I was my early 20s, before I had gotten married, I had moved back from school. I had moved back from college and was living at home. And one night there were 2 spiders on my wall. Kind of next to each other, and I grabbed a slipper and I slammed it on the wall. I only got one of them; the other one dropped.
No, that's the worst.
I grabbed my pillow and a blanket and I went out and slept on the couch because I had just killed its mate and I had a pissed off spider someplace in my bedroom, and there was no way in the world I was sleeping.
Yeah.
So,
so that was my third choice. What is your second choice?
Gosh, that's a hard one to follow up. Okay, my second, which actually for the longest time has been my favorite horror film. It just got replaced, got bumped down a little bit in the last couple of years, but it is In the Mouth of Madness.
Right.
John Carpenter,
I've heard about this one.
Sam Neill. It is. You have basically it's insanity. Where we have this insurance guy, this insurance investigator, who goes basically he investigates fraud claims to make sure that the people just, for whatever it is, you fell down, you claim you hurt your back. Next week we see you playing softball, but you're still claiming your disability, whatever. So he does this, but he does it for corporates. Excuse me, for corporations. And Sam Neill is he's hired to find this author, the number one horror writer, Sutter Kane. And from the very get-go, he is encounters people that are just going nuts. And the first one that he really encounters is, do you read Sutter Kane? Or have you read Sutter Kane? And his eyes are all weird, and he had just committed some atrocities and everything. The way they mess with time in this is phenomenal. That this is one of those where you will see a character wake up from something, and because you didn't realize they were in a dream, and then they all of a sudden shake and they woke up from the dream. And then they sit down and they do something, or they look over or whatever, and then they wake up again. So it's dream within a dream within a dream, and you don't really know where you're at. And so Sam Neill's character goes to this town to find where this author is, supposedly.
Sounds very Stephen King.
It really does, and it's and I don't know where if it was based on partially of Stephen King, or if it was an original story, or how it came about. But it's one of those that messes with your mind more than anything. I mean, there are horror elements to it, but it's more. I liked it because it was psychological. That we watch just the world going mad, and as it's going on, is Sam Neill the one that's going insane, or is the world around him going insane, and he's the one who's the only one who's seeing it, and there's a twist that comes in towards the final act, which
I haven't seen it.
No, I'm not going to spoil it because I love it. This is one. I mean, the music is great, the effects are great. The there is some not good CGI, but it's not really CGI for what was it, 94, I think. I mean, maybe it's kind of rough. I mean, some of the special effects that they use that are not practical effects are a tiny bit rough. Especially kind of, as you'll see skies change a little bit, or different things like that, like some environments that they manipulate. It's okay. But like from a makeup standpoint and what they do, I mean, it works to create that very unsettling atmosphere to everything. And then The music just builds within there, and Sam Neill crafts a character that you become sucked into. You know, you care about his journey and where he's going, and the more that he goes along, you're sucked into him, but you're kind of going along in his mindset of like, well, am I insane? What's going on? You know, and you question reality like he begins to, and very effective.
Wow. Yeah, I do love Sam Neill. I think he's excellent. That's definitely going to go on my list. What is quite funny is that my second place is a Sam Neill film.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was made in 1997, stars Sam Neill, Lawrence Fishburne, and Jolie Richardson, and was directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. Can you guess what it is?
Event Horizon.
Yes. Yes.
What a good one.
Yeah, this one scared the crap out of me. I first saw this film in London many years ago, in the tiniest cinema screen that they had. It was like in central London, but it's one of their it's a unique cinema screen where the walls are speakers. So the whole walls are like lined with speakers. So the screen is small, but it's basically atmosphere. And a friend of mine said, "Go and watch this film, you'll love it." And so I went on I think I'd finished work. I was working in London at the time. Went straight from work, just like 7 o'clock, jumped into this. Was like, oh, Sam Neill, cool. It looked like a space sci-fi film. Cool, wicked. Half an hour in, I'm like, what the hell is this film? And the deeper you get into this film, talk about psychological noir, interesting color palettes, storyline that you think you know where it's going, and then it just veers one way. The premise itself about a ship that's been sucked by a black hole and now has come back, and you're like, well, what's it brought back with it? Where's it been this whole time? And it just keeps going until you get to that crescendo of an end. Man, I love this film. It's also really scary. Like, there's jump scares, but it's genuinely shot like looking around the corner sort of horror. Walking through tunnels, you don't know what you're going to see or who's going to be there, or like somebody dead but undead, or some sort of vision because you don't know what's reality, or body horror. Some of the body horror stuff was like gruesome. Yeah, it's great.
What a good choice. Yeah, I remember being blown away because I went in thinking it was sci-fi.
Yeah.
Just
I think
sci-fi.
a lot of people did, yeah.
You know, because you see a spaceship, you see space, and you know, and then you've got some actors that you were like, ooh, I like them.
Yeah.
Oh, what's going on? Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's been a few years since I've rewatched, but I remember really having a lot of fun with that one, and just the creepy and unsettling, and just
it does stay with you a bit. It's one of those films that you're like, but I don't feel right, man.
Oh, I love it. What a good choice.
So what's next on for you?
So my top one. Okay, this one a couple years ago bumped out In the Mouth of Madness. And I know that this is, some people have an issue with this. And that's okay. This is mine. Hereditary.
Okay.
So this broke the horror genre for me. And in fact, it changed the way that I viewed horror.
Interesting.
Yeah, because have you seen it?
No.
Okay. There is a supernatural / spiritual aspect to it, which can be unsettling, can be a little bit bothersome. There are moments in this where it's a family horror, and it's like there's a moment halfway through the film, maybe not even halfway through the film, where, no joke, I mean, my breath was taken from me. My jaw is open, and I'm just like, I can't believe this. You have
is it psychological or supernatural? Because no one could ever give me a straight answer, or does that give it away?
It squarely sits within psychological. Okay.
Cool.
But there is a supernatural-ish aspect to it.
Okay.
Not ghost. not really
Right.
ghost story, anything like that. It's just it's more of that. If you sit within if you think more in the spiritual realm a little bit, it goes within that a little bit. I mean, you have Gabriel Byrne, you have Nat Wolf, or is this Alex Wolf, Millie Shapiro, who plays the Charlie the daughter, and then I'm sorry, but Toni Collette was absolutely robbed from her Oscar from
Toni
winning.
Collette is excellent anyway. Like, she's genius.
She is, but in this movie, I mean, she is like God tier. It is
Right.
it is crazy at how well, and you know, she plays mom a lot. Really, I mean, if you look at like a string of her movies, I mean, she's playing a mom. Now, she still plays it really well, and she does phenomenal in this. This one, though, I mean, for me, she surpassed so many of her other roles, and there are some scenes in here where you feel what she's feeling because she is emoting it in such a way that is it's visceral, and it just you
It looked
can't-
like that, which is why I haven't seen it yet.
yeah, it is. The first part of the movie is really just building us up. You know, setting the tone. There's unsettling imagery. She is a model. She's an artist. Toni Collette is an artist, and she makes these models. So they're scale of things she's seen, things she's experienced, whatever, and which that takes on its own portion later on in the movie, which becomes very just that's not right, you know. I think a lot of it, what I enjoyed, I saw it twice in the theater. And that was, me and my oldest son saw it opening night, and then we saw it, I think, 2 days later, again in the theater. And that was, the second time viewing was even better because we knew what to expect at certain moments, because there is a shift in the horror movie itself. So you have family horror, and you have all of this, just this relationship and things building, and you don't really know where they're going. I mean, the tensions are rising. An event happens which triggers everybody in different ways. And so it's you have, I mean, even from the very beginning of the movie, there is a dealing with grief that is processing through here. And then you get into the second half of the movie begins more of this that spiritual journey ish. Now there's still messing with your head psychologically, but it begins to, now some of the pieces begin to fall in there, and then it goes into some of your more standard horror, but not standard. That's the thing. And so, like, seeing it in the theater was outstanding. You have to watch this like in a very dark room, because as you get to the end, there are portions where the camera does not draw your eye to it. And so people see things at different points.
Alrighty.
And that was some of the best thing, because like I saw something, I'm like, oh, that's not right. And my son then saw it. And then you see other people in the theater, like physically moving because they've seen something. The second time we see it,
I don't know if I want to watch this.
oh my gosh, no, it's really good. But the second time we watch it, the same scene, we know it's coming, and so now I'm just anticipating how's the audience going to react. And down in the front, someplace, you hear, "Oh, honey, F no!" I'm just out loud.
Amazing.
Because it's like, that's not right. That's, you know, and this is one, though, the reason I say that this changed the way that I viewed horror is because it wasn't your traditional, you know, you don't go in and it's not slasher. It's not even really one type of horror. It morphs within these genres, and it takes you on this incredible journey, and that caused me then to go back and say, you know what, I had watched The Witch 1 or 2 years before that, and I didn't like it at all. I thought it was dry. I thought it was boring. I didn't think it was scary or really.
Yeah, because a lot of people rate that, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They love it. And I'm like, I didn't get this at all. And so watching Hereditary and it breaking horror for me. I mean, it truly becoming like, wow, this is a way that you tell a scary story and you envelop your audience in this. And then by the end of it, I mean, you're like, oh my gosh, you know, and there's things to unpack within it too. And so that then I was just like, well, okay, this is not what I expected. And I had to do some of this work to really to dive into the story and into the meat and develop or understand why it was so horrifying to me. I need to now revisit a few of these other horrors that didn't resonate, you know, that were kind of similar in this, that they weren't your standard horror type of story. And so I went back and I rewatched The Witch, and while I still don't find it as terrifying or as scary as some people do, I have a whole new level of appreciation for it, for the way that the story unfolds and how it is built and the slowness that they use to tell that story. And so this, you know, that, yes, you got to watch Hereditary. It's okay. One of those that I think it's very heavy in content. And so it's not something that you can watch a lot. Like, I think my oldest son got a little burnt out because we saw it twice in the theater, and then right when it came out to purchase, we bought it, and we watched it again. And that time my wife saw it as well. And so it's a lot. You know what I mean? It's because it's very heavy, but it's absolutely worth it.
Nice. Well, I think I'm going to rope my wife into watching this with me. If I have to watch it, she does too. So.
But please don't revoke our friendship if if this bothers you.
All right. So for my number one, I'm just going to do a quick honorable mention. I did earlier, but I wanted to just before this. Could have been in my number one spot, but it's actually just a Halloween movie that I watch every year. It's called Trick or Treat, and have you heard of it?
I have heard of it, and it's on my list. I haven't seen it yet.
You really need to watch it. So on Halloween, a few people face their worst nightmares as their paths cross on one another. These include a couple that blows out a Halloween lamp, a serial killer, a college girl, and a few errant teens. The genius of this is that it's like a anthology, but the stories keep crossing over until we get to that end kind of crescendo moment where it all kind of makes sense. And it's kind of, there is a protagonist that's in all five. It's this little dude with a pumpkin head and a knife and a sack, and you don't want to mess him up. That's basically Sam Hain in spirit form, and it's excellent. It's a lot of fun. It's comedy, horror, thriller. You know, there's things in there that crop up that I just wasn't expecting. It kind of covers all the things you want to see in a Halloween movie. So much fun. So yeah, stick that on your Halloween list. But for my number one film, it's based on a graphic novel, and it's called 30 Days of Night. It is my favorite vampire film. I have a lot of favorite vampires films. Obviously, we have The Dark Half, we have The Lost Boys, we have Into the Vampire, all great ones. Dracula, I don't think I'm with people that think it's genius. I think it's probably Keanu Reeves' weakest. Or like he was like Bill and Ted, like, well, you're a vampire. Yes. And I like the costume design in that, but yeah, I'm not there with people on Dracula, unfortunately. Bram Stoker's one. This was the first time I really saw vampires properly as a threat. Even in Blade, I was like, they're fun, he's just like decapitating them, and there was a few monsters. And this one, because it's set in Alaska, where for 6 months of the year it's all dark, once your protection goes out and you realize like you live in this place, you happen to have to stay there now because you got trapped in this little town that is now empty most because people leave it for those few months of the year where it's dark, and you see these vampires coming in, you recognize how like they're smart, they're intelligent, they're visceral, they will munch on you, and they're like Terminators with teeth, right? Yes. And so then it's just a survival game, and it really does play from the graphic novel. They've done it justice because it goes from graphic novel pages. You can literally see where that image is, where they've taken it from the comic. So it's really honorable. So I think because it has such a great story from the graphic novel, you have a great story that's one of those few that's been translated onto the screen quite well. And we have an interesting, fun cast. The guys that play the vampires are, as evil as you want them to be. The heroes are as complex and broken as you want them to be. You don't just want your straight-faced, hey, I'm the hero, I can survive anything. Because you literally don't know who's going to survive in this one. It is one of those, will I get to the light? How am I going to survive with no sun? How do I kill these things? I love it. It's my favorite.
I really enjoyed the isolated nature that they use for that. You know, I mean, that's brilliant to have a location that, you know, like you said, there's no sun, you know, there's no daybreak for quite a while, and then it is a town where, you know, they can basically thrive in, and you know, and I yeah, really good. That's
reminds me a little bit of Midnight Mass, actually, in the way that the isolation comes.
Yeah. They didn't burn all their houses though, so that's
no, no, they didn't. No. Probably should have.
So now, did you read the graphic novel as well?
Yeah, I did, but after. Yeah.
Okay, and so it matches up pretty well, and so it's
really
that's good.
It's excellent. Yeah,
that's awesome. Because you know, sometimes the adaptations they take so many liberties, whatever
they change so much of the characters as well. That I know you can, because that sometimes you have to. It doesn't translate as well, but I think for this one, they did a really great job. I'm just looking at the cast again. Josh Hartnett is one of the ones when he was doing.
Yes.
He was pretty much an A-lister. Melissa George is great. Danny Houston as one of the vampires, I thought he was excellent. And Ben Foster. Yeah, just such a
good cast.
A cast that I thought really worked, which is unique. Sometimes you need all the puzzle pieces just to fit, to work right, and you get those. And so you had the atmosphere, you had the acting, you had the sometimes cheesy lines, but I think that's kind of part and parcel with that sort of genre, the vampire one. Yeah, so much fun. I could stick it on now and just enjoy it for what it is and still be scared. Yeah, so we've done our 5. Not necessarily won't change in the next couple of years, probably will, because there's always something new and interesting that might take place. And there's so many that we haven't mentioned because there's a cornucopia. When I was prepping for this, I was like, there's so many that I would love to talk about. I ummed and ahed about having Nightmare on Elm Street 3 in my top 5 because the first one scares the crap out of me. The second one is okay. The third one, because it deals with magic and the possibility of actually beating Freddy in the dream realms. Like they basically control their dreams and whatever they're strongest at and start fighting Freddy. And I just loved the idea of that. I thought it was quite ahead of its time.
Which one is that one called?
It's called Dream Warriors.
Dream Warriors. Okay.
Yeah. Loved it. Really interesting, different. But there are moments where there's like one kid that he's a wizard and he's doing like magic, and Freddy grabs him and stabs him with his knives and goes, "This ain't no fairy tale, kid." And you know, it's cheesy, but it's great. I loved it. A lot of fun. Right. Yeah. So there's loads we could talk about.
Tons. Oh well, so we'll wrap up this our top 5 personal horror, best of horrors. You know, we would love to know, I think, first off, in the comments, what are yours? What scares you? They don't even have to be, I mean, obviously. So you look at some of our lists that probably may not have even occurred to you to be on a horror list, or maybe they do. I don't know. But I would love to see everybody's rankings. I mean, I think that would be a lot of fun because probably that's going to add to my list of things to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Which I think that will be brilliant. You know, if you're watching right here on YouTube, we would love for you to join us over on Spotify or wherever you happen to listen to podcasts, because we are going to tackle in our extended edition the best things that we did watch this week. And so we hope you'll join us. But as always, I'm Chris with Movies and Munchies, Ruben with the Ruby Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe if you haven't. And don't forget to share what you love, what your favorite horror movies are in the comments below. Coming up next week, just as a teaser, what we're going to be talking about is our top 5 family-friendly Halloween or horror movies. And so these, especially if you have kids, young'uns, or you're just looking for something that's maybe not as terrifying, but it's still a great time to watch for the Halloween season. We're going to tackle these. I'm excited to see what Ruben has. I don't even remember what I have on my list. I'm going to have to revisit that and make sure that it's all good to go. But until then, we hope we'll see you next week. And as always, on our podcast as well. So thanks for watching.
Bye.